Hey everyone, and welcome to ElijahStreams. Today's Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. I'm your host, Kelsey O'Malley, filling in for Steve Schultz. We are pre-recording the show today. Dr. Jan will be here in just a moment to speak about the battle on energy and tariffs, on trade routes, what's really happening behind the scenes, and are we in the beginning of an economic renaissance for the US? What does that mean? What does that look like? She's going to speak on these topics and much more regarding current events. But before she comes on to join me, here's one of our water well videos showing you where your donations go when you help us here at Elijah Stream. And you are an answer to so many prayers, and we are so thankful for your help and your partnership because we could not do it without you. There has been hundreds and hundreds of wells that have been dug to the glory of God, and we want to continue in that mission that the Lord gave us. So please go online to ElijahStreams.com/donate and partner with us today to see more miracles and more testimonies come out of this water well program. All right. Well, my guest today is a best-selling author. She's a consultant. She's a Republican commentator on BBC, a former vice president and UK chairman for Republicans overseas. She has helped work with Congress on policy to drive voter education. So please help me welcome again back to the show, Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes.
Eric called me and said, hey, what are your top 5 favorite Christian broadcasts? He asked, and I said, you got to get on ElijahStreams. You got to do it. Steve's great. You got to get on his show.
Dr. Jan, welcome back. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. You share a bigger picture than what we can just get from mainstream media, and we are so thankful for that. I thought we would start off by talking about President Trump and his recent decision to go after the regime in Iran. What do you think is the outcome from this? And is it just about canceling their nuclear capabilities now and in the future, or is there more behind President Trump's decision?
Well, there's a whole lot more behind it.
Yeah.
So let's have an understanding. This is not Israel, Israel, Israel. Israel is not in control of the US.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel sorry for anyone who has latched on to that and think that it's so. You're being misled and you're continuing to mislead yourself if that's how you look at it. Now, this is connected to Venezuela because let's understand, Trump, first off, said no new wars. So everybody that, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker and the rest of them, he's getting us into another war. I mean, think about, these people are supposed to be rational people. And what they have done is already projected everything into the future based on what happened when we went into Iraq. There's no comparison. So you really you cannot make assumptions. And with Trump, you definitely have to watch and you have to listen, because the answers, the clarity eventually comes. And so Trump is working so hard to create an economic renaissance for the US. That is what this is all about. So the tariffs, until 1913, we didn't have income tax. And gosh, people were healthy and we had roads, and no one had to support the government from their own paycheck. All of that because tariffs actually worked. And why people don't look back at what worked in the past and how to make it work now, that's a whole dissertation. So, but the key point is tariffs work, and they're working because what he wants for us is energy dominance. We need energy dominance because AI is going to require so much energy in all forms. So it's tariffs, it's energy dominance. The next part is deregulation, which he did in Trump 1.0, and he's continuing to work on that, because what he's also encouraging is that companies that are building or expanding into AI, they are going to need data centers, and he's wanting them to build them close to their offices to be able to also provide jobs. See, everything Trump does, you can never treat anything as an isolated issue or bit of information, because he not only sees the big picture, but he is one. In fact, I was on BBC and I said, you've got to learn to read the tea leaves, because the tea leaves have to be paid attention to, and if you look at the tea leaves, and if they all have little words on them, like Venezuela and Cuba and Iran and all of that, you'll be able to understand it. And then the last part is then using this money with the Sovereign Wealth Fund for national development and to protect us and to make sure that their jobs are there for our children and for our grandchildren and for their children and grandchildren. So that is the strategic overview. If you then look at that Mark Thyssen, who is a neocon, been on Fox, is like the poster boy for a neocon, wrote an op-ed a couple of weeks ago, and he supported what Trump is doing because it has been going on for 47 years.
Mm.
Not a new war. Trump said no new wars. Now, I don't know if people remember Trump in 1.0 saying that he was a wartime president. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if people paid attention when the Speaker of the House in the past couple of months said that he's a wartime speaker. I mean, we go back to 13848, and that was the executive order that allowed him, besides sanctions and foreign and domestic interference with our elections, it allowed him to create a national emergency. And that national emergency has been Biden renewed all of those executive orders. I don't even know if the Democrats are aware of that, but his 4 top executive orders to do with trafficking, to do with the economy, to do with the election, they were all renewed by Biden. And it's really important to keep that in the back of your mind and think, why have people called him CIC, Commander in Chief, aside from the fact that he is a president, is Commander in Chief, but constantly referred to as CIC, the Commander in Chief, because he never stopped being in charge, because that's why it's 45-47.
Yes.
So he never left it. And here's a little tidbit, is that there's an author who once he wasn't in after the 2020 election, who interviewed him for a book about his time running The Apprentice. And this author ended up writing that at one point, Donald Trump got up and had to leave the interview because he said he had to go deal with the problems in Afghanistan. And then this author is writing, but he's not president anymore. What's going on with him? Which we all knew that was just when Biden left all of our equipment and pulled everyone out of Afghanistan.
Yes.
And so for those who are aware, this author's writing a book about Donald Trump's time at The Apprentice, and probably is as liberal and as woke as could be, and would never explore or understand any background information. So of course he would be perplexed by that. But those of us who read that were like, yes,
Confirmation.
this really is true. Right. Confirmation. This really is true.
Yes.
Phew. Great. Okay. So now, with that in mind, what we also have is that the UN had their 2021 and 2030 and all of those plans, but we also had China with the Silk Road, and they were doing what our CIA has done to many countries, of going in and promising development. And then what happens is you loan them money for the development, and they become beholden to you.
Wow.
Yes, that's exactly.
So
yes.
Is that what happened in Venezuela? And Venezuela was giving them oil to pay them back?
No, not necessarily Venezuela, but if you think about Costa Rica, or let me give you a different example, and let's go to Iran.
Okay.
So, all right. So there had been a Shah, and this is, I think around the late 50s. Don't hold me to the date. But this particular Shah, not the one, not Pahlavi or, okay, this particular Shah decided he was going to nationalize the oil in Iran. Well, that was a problem for British Petroleum. Now, they could not go to a kinetic war because they were afraid that Russia would come in. So the Brits went to the Americans, to the CIA. Kermit Roosevelt, Teddy's great-grandson, worked for the CIA, went into Iran, and basically did a BLM-style inciting of the people to go against the Shah at that time, so that they could replace him and British Petroleum would still own all of the oil refinery and a lot of the oil that came out of Iran.
Oh, wow.
And yes, so the games have been going on longer than 47 years, longer than the time that the former Shah was ruling. Then the other part that bothered the cabal, the deep state, I'm going to refer to them as the City of London right now because they control the central banks and finance and trade around the globe. Well, they weren't happy with that Shah because Iran was moving towards modernization. They were starting to manufacture things. They were going to become not quite a U.S. of the Middle East, but he was really building it up in a Western way. Well, the City of London wasn't happy with that because what they really wanted was unrest in the Middle East because that supports the military industrial complex.
Wow.
You with me so far?
Yes, yes, I'm still
Okay.
with you. Yes.
So we get one Shah thrown out so that British Petroleum can still do this, and then all the trade and the finance,
all the money stays there.
Their money and the military industrial complex, and then they had to get this second Shah out because he was modernizing Iran too much, and they put Khomeini in because he believed that any kind of progress and profit making was too close to the way Westerners were. And he was happy to be a terrorist. I mean, not that they called him that, but that the evidence is there for 47 years.
Wow.
Trump.
This is a big game.
A very big game. Now, let's go to Venezuela.
Okay.
And Venezuela produced oil. The drug cartels went through Venezuela. The City of London, and in fact, about a year ago, there was an article in The Guardian, which is one of the big liberal newspapers in the UK, that ended up saying 40% of the money that goes through the 14 tax-free islands and entities set up by the cabal is drug money, is human traffic money.
Wow.
See, it's not like right now it's before our eyes. And so a lot of people are going, oh, wow, that's news. It's been in the news. It's been dropped in. It's just everything has its timing for when it rises to the top to get people's attention. So now I mentioned the China Silk Road.
Yes.
They were doing exactly what the City of London, the cabal, has been doing, and our CIA. We'll give you money, you'll be indebted to us, we'll end up controlling you. The International Monetary Fund is connected to it. The Council of Foreign Relations. Council of Foreign Relations is an important thing to keep in mind because Rockefeller put Jeffrey Epstein on the Council of Foreign Relations.
Oh, okay.
And as I've spoken in the past on the show, Jeffrey Epstein, uneducated, none of the usual credentials that all the other people who get a position on the Council of Foreign Relations come with to be able to earn that. The reason that he was on there was to also snare that money to channel it to the tax-free islands. Yes,
Wow.
it saved the wealthy people money, but it also provided the bankers with a lot of money to use to do
Wow.
things. So Venezuela was the oil. Now China was very dependent until Trump went and took Maduro out, because Iran and Venezuela are the two major countries that provide China with all of their energy needs. And so what Trump is doing is he is cutting them off from their control of it,
Yep.
so that it helps the U.S. also be more competitive in the space, because we will have the energy resources. So you with me so far on these different things? Okay.
Yes.
So now Iran, when they sent our bombers over and took out the nuclear facilities, do not believe the news, because how could Iran right now threaten that if Trump did, because Trump had set a deadline of 48 hours to take out a particular energy field in Iran, and Iran responded back and said, well, if you do that, we're going to do it to Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar.
Wow.
We're going to do it. And so what's so interesting here that people aren't talking about is Iran is showing its true colors, that it doesn't care about its neighbors. It's never had to care about its neighbors. And it just so happens that I get a lot of Afghani drivers, Uber drivers here in DC. And just about every one of them had worked with our military in a different capacity.
Interesting.
When we were over there. Yeah, I mean, these are very, very intelligent. One, the driver that I just had was actually a helicopter pilot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that Biden let in, I'm getting a sense, the majority, really spent many years supporting our efforts over there. And that's really important to keep in mind, because they also told me that Iran threatens other Middle Eastern countries. And we don't get that kind of news. They are truly the big bully of the Middle East, because that's what the cabal wants. They have not wanted the Middle East to be in a peaceful state whatsoever, because it doesn't serve the people who just want money. But let me read a small quote from the 1980 report from the Council of Foreign Relations. A degree of controlled disintegration in the world economy legitimizes the objective for the 1980s and may be the most realistic one for modern international order. The report was entitled Alternatives to Monetary Disorder by Fred Hirsch. So all of, you know how we've said the New World Order and they wanted us to be slaves or serfs and all of that. Here we have it in a Council of Foreign Relations report. Just as much as we say the Dems tell the truth out loud, we need to go back and read some of these reports because they were telling us what they intended on doing. So
and that was in the 80s, correct?
It was the 1980 report. So that means they had to go through the 70s plotting this out to be able to make it happen. Yes, so they have wanted this disorder to go on. So the 1979 removal of the Shah of Iran was engineered by the deep state and other players. I mean, why do you take someone out who is doing something good for their country? I know, don't think that I'm stupid asking that question. It's more, I'm nonplussed at how they did it and the evilness that had to exist behind it to want to do that.
So I have a quick question for you about
go ahead.
with China and the Silk Road Initiative and how they're in all these, I believe, 70 different countries they're in, of what they say on what I read about this whole thing.
Yes.
And I want to know your thoughts on, what do you think China is going to do? How are they going to respond when they're not having enough energy to continue with development of AI?
Well, that's going to be a problem. So now here's another move on the chessboard. You know that Russia and China and several other countries created the BRICS economy to pay for things that way because they were saying we didn't want the petrodollar or having to use the US dollar. Well, Putin a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, left BRICS. And
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I never saw that anywhere on the news anywhere. No article, nowhere.
Right.
Wow.
Yes. Left BRICS and said that Russia was going back to the petrodollar. So again, a move on the chessboard as Trump is bringing things closer because he has had to weaken China. Now, I don't know if it was, you might have to be so geekish like we are into every move and bit of information and all of that. But when Trump went into Venezuela, or had our military go into Venezuela, it originally was going to be on day 1, but was postponed 4 days because he was waiting for the Chinese foreign minister to arrive in Venezuela, make his point even louder that he planned on doing anything possible to weaken China. Now, he's going to meet with Xi Jinping very soon.
He postponed that as well, right?
I was at a conference for 4 days, so that might have just come up, and I'm not aware of that.
Well, I know the first time they were supposed to meet, which was a day ago or a week ago, they didn't. And Trump pushed it back, I believe 10 days, because of the stuff that's happening with the war. It's just not smart for him to go and when tensions are rising and all of this. Yeah.
Exactly. instead, over the weekend, he went to Graceland.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So that's why I say to people, why are you focused on Israel? It was like Russia, Russia, Russia. Now you're Israel, Israel, Israel. And I haven't had a chance. I'm going to, I promise you this. I am going to study and research the origins of where this idea originally came from that made people think that Israel controls us. Mainstream media has reported, because there are some negotiations, we don't know for sure, but that's what's being floated, and a ceasefire for 48 hours. And the mainstream media reported that Netanyahu wasn't aware. So how I take that, that is the first optic that is telling people, no, Israel does not control us.
Of course not.
And these people with blinders on who think we went in there, and Marco Rubio kind of misspoke, but we're not going into any blame of him because he's doing an incredible job. But what it was that Israel knew when when Khomeini and the other mullahs were all going to be meeting, and Israel told the US, we're going in. And Trump was not going to let them go in first or by themselves. And so any other misconception, misinterpretation, assumption that we followed Israel, no. Israel has had a woman who is undercover, who has been in there close to Khomeini for years and years and years. Wow. And that has been a very good vehicle for getting information out.
Yes.
So if people, if you are one who thought this was Israel, 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 this has nothing to do with Iran and Israel right now, or the US protecting Israel. This is a much bigger piece of reorganizing geopolitical politics. And it's really important to understand that, because again, it all comes down to financial, to resources, and to peace. And again, Trump did not say he wouldn't finish certain wars. He just said no new wars. And for anyone who thinks this is a new war, well, you're irrational. It's just, there's too many facts out there. There's no logic to that conclusion. What it is it's bias, and what it is, it's what the Democrats do to us when the Democrats think that they know how we think, and then they give a dissertation of, what our intentions are. They are assuming a motive that is crazy in their head, and they're attributing it to us, just like it is a symptom of Trump derangement syndrome. They make one assumption about Access Hollywood or whatever, and then they take that and they make a whole story out of it, and they think they're absolutely right. Yet, where are the facts?
Right.
Where are the facts?
Yeah, where are the real journalists who are looking into what's behind all of this, and why is the Strait of Hormuz such a huge focus in all of this, if it's about nuclear weapons, or if it's about Israel and Iran? And why is this such a key factor in all of this? I mean,
Excellent point, because that is what focus is now, because it is getting the oil. It's oil Venezuela, now oil Iran.
yes.
That is serving the Strait of Hormuz. Once again, Trump outsmarted them when they closed it, when Lloyd's of London, which is tied to the City of London Corporation, said that they would not insure the ships going through the strait.
Mm-hmm.
Trump already had the plan, and Bassett already outlined it. Our Navy will be there. We will insure you, because really all they had to do was get through the strait. And once they're through the strait, their regular insurance kicks in to protect them.
Yep.
And it wasn't as if that hadn't been anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, two other things. Trump recently, or Bassett, the administration recently, in the past few days, lifted sanctions on Russia so they could sell their oil. So another chess piece is moving,
Mm-hmm.
which then puts Iran behind the 8 ball. And they just did the sanctions on the Iranian ships that were already in the waters,
Mm-hmm.
delivering, and have permitted them to deliver their oil, but
Yep.
they're not going to give the money to Iran.
Mm-hmm.
So those, again, are two more moves. And it's not with pawns.
Yes. And if you don't have the finances, you can't fund the war. You can, if they don't have money coming in, if that's being blockaded and taken out from under them, there's no way to progress forward. Between getting rid of, bombing them, getting rid of their weapons, their ships, their planes, all of the things they would use to fight, and then drying up that source of income. I mean,
Right.
you're smoking them out, like they're
Exactly.
going to come running out eventually.
Exactly. And that for me, I like to sit back and reflect on how really incredibly smart Trump is. And it's not only Trump, because for many people are new to the Great Awakening,
Mm-hmm.
and might be very much aware. And you guys have had Jerome Corsi on the show, and Jerome Corsi has talked publicly that the military recruited Trump to run for president. It had been a recruitment process over many decades to
Mm-hmm.
get him to come in and take this responsibility. This wasn't, if you go back to a Tim Russert, 1998 or 1999, Tim Russert was probably the last of the mainstream media good political reporters who hosted a Sunday show. And Trump did a half an hour show with him. And at that point, Trump had left the Republican Party and joined the Reform Party. He had taken out a full-page ad in the New York Times condemning the Republicans. And when Tim Russert asked him if he was going to run for president,
Mm-hmm.
the first time Trump was publicly asked that, it was in 1980 with Rona Barrett on mainstream media. 1999, Trump said, "I'll run when I know I can win."
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what we heard from when he came down the golden escalator? But in that 25-minute interview, Trump outlined all of the issues that we're dealing with today. And on social media, quite a few of his interviews over the past 20, 25 years are being played for people to see how insightful he was back then. So it's not only to give him a compliment that he was insightful. What's more important is to understand that he saw these things. He saw the movement. He understood the actions. He understood the potential repercussions, as well as some of the outcomes that have not been beneficial for people around the globe.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have just an inkling of a global perspective or of Trump's global perspective, then look up the Tim Russert interview in 1999. Look up Rona Barrett, Ronabarrett, Rona Barrett interview, I think she was NBC, of 1980. There's David Letterman and Oprah in between there as well. And there's Larry King. Several times he was on Larry King's show.
Yes.
So you can look at those, and it will give you a very good understanding of how Trump has seen things and how he's seeing it now, but he's in a position to fix it. And he is a fixer. He is a fixer. If you haven't read my two-part article that I wrote in June of 2016 on Breitbart, it's also on my Substack, is that Trump has the right temperament at the right time to do the right thing. And why I wrote that article, aside from having to beg Trump to take the presidential temperament assessment tool that had been used with 41 other presidents, because temperament is what we're born with. That is different from how we act today and deal with things. That is part of character, but temperament, because he's a problem solver, because he's a go-getter to get things done. But sorry, you were going to ask me a question?
I think I just wanted to comment on you're bringing, as you share this, it's making me think, okay, he was asked in the 80s, you said originally, about becoming president, and then in the 90s, and then from other interviewers, and then the military said, listen, we've been speaking with him and recruit. So my brain immediately goes to, for all of these years, this man has been thinking about the global control, the global problems, and how to move the pieces in the right place at the right time, with looking at history, looking at what's happened through the other presidencies. I mean, you just have all this analysis that he has for all of these years, and then he steps into the presidency, just like he said, I won't run until I know I can win. I'm ready. I think at that point he had gathered enough information to know how to do it. And we're seeing that play out in front of our eyes.
And something, and I'm going to steal it from you, and I'm going to repeat it in future podcasts. You just hit the nail on the head. He had been looking at it globally. He had been looking at it globally. When our media and many politicians look at it myopically with just the US or against, but absolutely. So I'm borrowing that from you, Kelsey.
I borrow everything you share, Dr. Jan. You've helped me understand so many things, really, what's really going on, because you bring such a great perspective. Like you said, you think globally, you see it globally, and that helps us understand. I want to shift over and talk about, I have to get this in with you, Joe Kent, because he wrote this whole big thing, which I think everyone listening right now knows, where he basically came out against Trump, against the administration, said why he had to leave. He could, it was against his moral. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on with that?
Well, it depends on who you talk to, because some might say it's a psyop. I don't know. I really, I don't know. But here's one thing is that, and this is, again, this is a clue of what to listen to, and not everything has to make sense in the moment.
Mhm.
But the press was after Tulsi Gabbard, right after Joe Kent published his resignation letter.
Mhm.
And the operative word was imminent, because Joe Kent said there was no imminent threats. The media asked Tulsi Gabbard, who decides if something is an imminent threat? Tulsi said, the president does. Of
Mhm.
course, he's the
Mhm.
shot caller.
Mhm.
And so that word imminent has been the operative word. So you've got the one side that is trying to say he's put us in a war. There was no imminent threat. Excuse me, how about 47 years of
Yeah.
imminent
It's
threats?
ridiculous.
Nonstop.
Correct. Yeah.
Nonstop. And remember, Trump is the finisher to what JFK attempted to start.
Mhm.
So you have to go all the way back to the 60s when JFK was elected, and then also CIA murdered,
Mhm.
assassinated. All right.
Correct. Yeah.
So Joe Kent, on one level, if you agree to serve at the pleasure of the president, it doesn't matter what you think or feel personally. I mean,
Mhm.
you're welcome to discuss it privately, but you definitely don't have a right to have a public voice.
Mhm.
Now, all I don't have the verified facts yet. What I will do is I will give you tidbits of what different factions are saying, so that you go do your research and eventually come to your own conclusion. Now, it seems that it has been, this part I would trust, because it's been reported not by mainstream but by a lot of credible people on social media, that Joe Kent had been extricated from security briefings for many, many months, and the White House had been asking Tulsi Gabbard to fire him.
Yes,
Okay,
I heard
so,
that.
So that's one side. Now,
Mhm.
why
Mhm.
didn't Tulsi fire him? And if he was doing this, why did he decide right now to publish publicly his resignation letter, and then all of his past posts and interview, whether he was on Sean Ryan's show or with Steve Bannon,
His own
has been
tweets.
a different story.
Mhm.
So once again, we have someone who's changed their mind, but at the same time, who is he? Who is he to think that his voice is the one that should even be saying this against the administration, against
Mhm.
the president? Just
Mhm.
like Candace Owens, she doesn't stop with
Mhm.
acting as if she knows things, and
Mhm.
it
Yep.
is as vile. And MTG is getting worse by the day. And what we don't know is, I mean, for me, MTG was a congresswoman. Joe Kent was director of national counterterrorism.
Mhm.
If he cannot see the continual imminent threat from Iran, and he wasn't even in charge of that area. My first question was, or my first statement was, thank goodness, if this isn't a step, thank goodness he's gone, because if he can't see that imminent threat, how could we trust him in his job to see any imminent threats?
Yes.
So
Your common sense immediately, your common sense is going, what?
what's wrong with this
what?
picture?
You immediately think, your common sense says, whoa, this is so wrong. It's like you're betraying your country by even publicly saying all of this. And then you immediately then flip to, well, who's behind this? Because this is not his own doing. Why would he do this? There's something behind this. And then, of course, the history like you went over, and then it just gets even more confusing, doesn't make any sense at all, which there's something way bigger behind this than just himself.
Right. So, and again, we're just throwing out possible thoughts because this isn't making sense. And I really want to underscore that, because anyone who knows me knows I will not predict things or make assumptions. What we're really trying to do here is give you the tidbits of the craziness that is causing confusion and the hypocritical and contradictory behavior coming out of Joe Kent. You know, Joe Kent served, his wife was killed in combat. There was a time when he was posting that we needed to deal with Iran. And yet, and I don't know if this is true, there was just a report that he had gone to Vance, J.D. Vance first with his resignation, and supposedly J.D. Vance said, talk to Trump, and Joe Kent didn't want to do that. I'm not crazy about Mark Levin, but Joe Kent was just on with Mark Levin. So you can pick snippets up from that. Now, while we're having fun with hypotheticals, let's understand Trump's usual 4 tools of communication. 1, he wants to be the first to frame an idea. 2, he wants to test it. So if he has to alter it, he waits for the responses. He welcomes the responses. Or he'll use a distraction. So in the Venezuela situation, when Starmer was making comments about Trump going in and taking Maduro, he then made a comment about Starmer selling off Diego Garcia Island, I think that was the island, cheaply, or practically giving it away. That's a distraction away from what the real issue is. But Trump's great at that. Or to deflect. And deflection is, right now, we have a perfect example. Trump has said, okay, ceasefire for 48 hours. He has also said, and we are talking to the Iranians. They are open to discussing with us. We still have not found a good person there that we can work with. But also, this is part of his strategy, because the person is a foreign minister and he was president of the parliament. They are talking to him and throwing his name around. Now, if you are in Tehran and this person is having their name thrown around by the president of the United States, just the way we're asking questions about Joe Kent and why this and who's playing whom and all of that. That is what is going on in Tehran, because suddenly they don't know who to trust. They know that at the beginning, Trump had said, if you want to come to us, we'll give you $1 million, or it was some huge sum of money for them. We'll protect you. We'll give you money. Just get away from the the Revolutionary Army. Get away from it. So what he's doing is deflecting attention, but also creating suspicion, because Iran is denying that Witkoff and Kushner are in any kind of conversation with Iran.
Right.
And that is deflection and distraction. Well, we don't know enough of what is going on with Joe Kent, but boy, we're sure getting an avalanche of examples. And hopefully we'll get some clarity, because now we have Joe Kent, MTG, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and a few others there.
Yeah.
But then, people send me DMs and go, I'm so angry at myself. How could I have been so stupid to have listened to them? No, stop. I have always said, because people say, who do you trust? I trust the message. I trust the content and the context. And I can tell you that when Candace Owens first came on the scene, because, one of my dearest friends has been a major funder of TPUSA for, since 2012, 2013, when Charlie Kirk had been just a boy and this idea had come to him. And Candace Owens originally worked at TPUSA and had such great presence. And I think she's very, very pretty young woman. And then she went out on her own, and then she went to Daily Wire, and then she and Ben Shapiro had a little divorce, and she's on her own. Also, she was being grilled by Jerry Nadler years and years ago in front of Congress, and boy, her spunk that she just answered him right back. So I can tell you from her courage and her brain, how it works. I'm not saying I agree with how it thinks. I have had admiration for her. I have never listened to her. I have never wanted to listen to her. But I'm giving you that example because we have to separate our feelings. It's not all or nothing. It's not, oh, she's absolutely horrible. I can respect Candace Owens as a person, as a young woman who has really built her career. I can also not want to have anything to do with her or to even inquire what she's talking about, because so why make such a big deal about Macron's wife? And then she gets sued by, it's, for me, it's the same thing. I was at a conference in Dallas this weekend, and someone said to me, well, tell me, do you think JFK Jr. is alive? And evidently there's this love story TV series that's on, and now some people are saying, oh, you can see JFK was in it. Oh, please. What about all those masks? Oh, you can look at the head and see his hair. Oh, yeah, as if we haven't been told how the CIA can create perfect
absolutely.
masks.
Absolutely.
But and I said the same thing that I have said. I do not care, because even if you told me today, how is it going to change my life? How is it going to make anything better or different from the real issues that we're focusing on right now?
Yes.
And
that's
so
good.
the people that you want to listen to are the ones that are not taking a stand, but they're seriously trying to educate you and help you understand, and
Yes.
reading the tea leaves and connecting the dots for you. And that's what's most important. And I have respect for Tucker Carlson. I still go to Spotify to see who he's interviewing because he's a very good interviewer. This, to me, with Tucker more than any of the other ones, is that Tucker has now stepped out from behind the microphone. And his role was to be behind the microphone and ask the questions, because that's where his talent is. That's where his brain is so incredible at getting to the issues and pulling things out of people. And sometimes you end up believing your own press when you should not be believing your own press.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you stop listening. What you're doing is you have your antenna up like they never were up before. And it is because of this, it has put you on high alert, which will make you that much better, that much smarter, will give you greater clarity. And maybe that's what they're doing it for. We don't know. 'Cause again, for the newly awakened, and we have all lived with the art of war and the fall of the cabal and all of this information, and all of that is new to a lot of people. Read Sun Tzu, Art of War, or get the Cliff Notes for it. But when you're weak, you appear strong, and when you're strong, you appear weak, is one of the principles. There is always misinformation and disinformation, or what might be misinformation to you is actually factual information to me. And remember, it was the FBI and CIA that came up with conspiracy theory as a moniker when they didn't want people looking into the assassination of JFK.
Wow.
So keep those things in mind. And no one says you have to understand everything right now.
Yeah, I don't think we ever can. It's so deep. They're 10 steps ahead. I mean, unless you're in the no, you're at the table with the president. I don't think we're gonna know until it plays out.
Well, that's exactly true. And in the beginning, after Trump had retruth my interview, I call it my coming out party. My reluctant coming out party. I liked being incognito, but my coming out party. Now I totally forgot the point I was going to make.
President Trump tweeted
right. No,
that out.
it don't worry, it'll come back to me. But so to just kind of pull some things together, if you hear people saying we are Israel's puppet, think about it again. There's no way that we're Israel's puppet. And also, the Balfour Agreement was given to a Rothschild to solidify Israel as a state. So it's not how, tell me how, if that was done by a UK politician that did that for a Rockefeller. How is the U.S. a puppet of Israel? Just ask questions. Just let yourself be confused about things. And the thing is that clarity comes. Now, sometimes it comes in the form of, aha, oh my goodness, I never thought of all those connections. And that is really important to kind of sit when you have an aha moment, because it is like every bit of information in your brain that has been scrambled eggs is starting to line up. And so that is a good point, because aha moments are anchors of clarity. And when you have anchors of clarity, you can live in chaos and confusion easier.
Yes.
And I can tell you that the only constant thing in life is change and chaos. Yesterday was yesterday.
Yes.
It's gone.
That's right. That's right.
All we have is today. So take a deep breath, be calm, be smart. Now, here's the other thing, is that I did a couple of UK media in the past week or so, and they even had another Republican woman. I was on the BBC, and I guess she's one of the new spokespeople for Republicans overseas. And she was bellowing, he said no wars, we wouldn't go into wars, there wouldn't be regime changes and everything else. Well, I'm trying to lay out some of the things that I've laid out here. And after that show, I started posting on X. Yes, we all will have an emotional reaction to that information. And there isn't one right or wrong emotional reaction. Of course, we don't want our soldiers to be killed. We don't want a war to go on.
Right.
He calls it's an operation. Or he's calling, as he said in a press conference today, they don't like if I call it a war, so I call it an operation. I mean, there's Trump being honest, telling you exactly why that terminology is going on.
Yeah.
And be clear. But when you're taking a stand that first came because it was your emotional reaction, that is telling you that you are not going to see things clearly. So again, I used to say to my son, because he was kind of young when I got divorced, and he had certain reactions about how his father was treating him. And I said, look, in hand, you father. In this hand, you can be hurt or angry. It can be both. It is okay. And so I generally have to tell myself that, all right, I am not happy about this for whatever reason. And I have to check in with myself about that. And it's really important, because I don't want it to creep or spread in the professional side of me.
Yes.
And also to be able to communicate clearly, just as in the example of Candace Owen, how I feel about her as a young woman and what she's done for her life, her professional life, and her personal life. At the same time, no one says I have to have any respect or interest in her professionally.
Right.
And that is a very good way of looking at things, because we know that all I care about is that people have a certain amount of emotional and psychological equilibrium,
Mhm.
especially when things are moving so fast in current events
Yep.
that just take a step back
Mhm.
and we will be okay. Now,
Yes.
I remember when Trump came down the golden escalator and there were people immediately who were saying, God sent him. God sent him. I mean, many of us know that now.
Yeah, oh,
There couldn't have
absolutely.
been anyone else. I mean, I'm tempted if I even knew how to do a TikTok video, but I'm tempted to do a TikTok video that just says, okay, all of our GOP elected officials right now, how many of you are going to be able to do what Fetterman has done? Can you say country before party? Not a single Republican has ever said that. The other
Yep.
side of that is if they would make that decision of country before party,
Yes.
then their feelings about Trump, because there are many never Trumpers in there, their feelings about Trump would take a back seat.
Right.
But they make their political feelings and their self-preservation and all of that as a priority above country before party.
Yes.
And that is what needs to happen.
Yes, I so agree. I think it's so important to talk about the psychological part of it as well, and your feelings and what you see and how you react, because that all goes into how you respond, how you take information. And it's good to understand that you can be upset about something and still rationally think, what is the best for the country? Even though I don't want people dying, I don't want to gas prices to be high, but at the same time, if you look at the long term, you see the result of it, you're more likely to, okay, I'm going to bear with it and I'm going to do what I can. And I think it's responding in a way, because we can't control things. We're not, the president, we can't control it, but we can choose a way to respond and to live our lives in a way that's not going to be detrimental to ourselves or people around us. And I think that's always a smart decision. And I just wanted to add this one little comment on Candace Owens. And, the Bible talks about when you add a little bit of leaven, it ruins the whole lump. And I think her life is such a great example of when you let in a little lie and you put in a little leaven in that lump, it grows and it grows and it feeds. And pretty soon you've done a complete 180 and you're like, it's not even the same person. It was sparked from that little leaven. That's what I feel about her.
Oh, that's really good. Yes, exactly. Wow. So,
well, I just go ahead. I just want to add those little comments before you share anything else that's kind of on your heart for today that you feel like people really need to know during this time so that they're not in fear, that they know there's a plan in all of this. And really behind all of this, there's, of course, a plan from a man, but there's also a plan from the Lord. And we know that that's behind it as well, which is very comforting.
Exactly. And it's a spiritual war. This is a spiritual war. When good men do nothing, evil prevails.
Yes.
Our Congress over the past 30, 40 years have been a dereliction of duty. That's why we ended up having to have the Chevron doctrine. I mean, basically, the Chevron doctrine is saying that the bureaucracy, the senior executive service, the civil servants were given way too much control power. And why? Because Congress didn't do their job. They didn't want to be caught arguing because the Endangered Species Act had expired, and they didn't want to lose voters if they were not going to fund it anymore.
Wow.
You know, it's those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And so not that I want to get off on that, which we
There's
know
so
that
many tangents we could go on with. There's so much happening. I mean, just as you've shared, I'm like, well, we could talk about this and we could talk about this. There's so many places we could
Yeah.
go. We're gonna have to obviously have you back on again to get into more of just current events because there's so many we didn't get to hit on today.
Yeah.
But I would love for you to just share one word of wisdom for people who are, um, they're loving the Lord, they're trying their best. And what is a word of wisdom you can give them to just help settle them and give them a little bit more peace about what we're living through right now?
Well, let me just say it personally. A lot of people know that my son died because he was drinking too many energy drinks for about 12 hours with his friends. The caffeine level was 20 times higher than the alcohol level in his system and caused a blood clot in the arteries to his lungs. Now,
I'm so sorry.
people would say to me, how could I be so strong? Oh no, I wasn't. I wasn't strong. But what I said was that the part that gave me peace was that I knew God had a plan. And it was my faith.
Yeah.
It was my faith. And I went to therapy every other week for about another year after that. And those two things, but the faith is what let me go to sleep at night. I might have cried myself to sleep for a long time, but it at least it let me yell at God at times all by myself in my place. But I also always knew that that was God's plan. And every person that comes into our life is a messenger from God. It's just you have to make sure your ears and your heart are both open so that you can check it out. And just know we truly are in God's hands. And I so on a little bit of a lighter note, there was this sort of modern day parable, and that is the Pope and Trump were out on a lake in a yacht, and the Pope's hat flew off. And so Trump stepped out of the yacht and walked on the water and got the hat and walked back and gave it to the Pope. And the media the next day said Trump can't swim. So that's how people twist things also. Look for the twists.
What truth? Yes. Don't see the miracle. Just see
Right.
that we hate
Right.
him. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Jan, thank you so much for sharing so much information with us today, as you always do. We love having you on. We'll definitely have you back on soon. And we just pray that you are blessed. And as you continue to do such hard work, that God would just give you wisdom and protect you and your family and just keep you going because you are doing a lot of really good. And we're glad you're
Thank
here
you.
with us. And we're glad that you share the truth. So thank you again, Dr. Jan, for being on with us. And we love all of you viewers. Thank you for joining us on the program today. You won't want to miss tomorrow. Kim Robinson will be on the show sharing her encounters with the Lord and what she's seen and heard from him. You won't want to miss it. We will see you right here tomorrow. We love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.